I would invite us to read from the book of Jonah sometime this week. It's a very short book. You can get through it in one sitting. In today's reading, there is a great sense of urgency. And we have two examples of how to respond. The first is from Jonah, and the second are from the apostles or from the disciples. I was looking at the book because I wanted to see if it said, Jonah, the Lord called Jonah a second time. So in order for us to better understand his response or his lack of response is one of hesitation. So that's the first example. It's from Jonah. It's hesitation. The second is from the disciples, from the brothers, Andrew and Simon and John and James. Their response is immediate. So today as we gather in the church, who are we most like in our response to this invitation of discipleship? Are we like Jonah or are we like the disciples? It depends. It depends on where we are in our faith life. Did you know that starting on January 1, 2024, they said that we would make over 14 million decisions this year? 365 days. They say every day we make at least 35,000 choices. It's already going to be the end of January. Some of us chose to do some New Year's resolutions. How are we doing so far? The first week at the gym, you should have seen it was crazy, all these people. One of the resolutions was, the number one resolution was about fitness, which is good, but what about our spiritual life? What about this response to this great invitation in which God is calling us to be mindful of the mind, body, and spirit? So we might say, what are the obstacles that get in the way? Like Jonah, we hear the word, but we hesitate. Or we're like the disciples, and their response is one of great openness. I want to share with you, this past Thursday, we were with our group. It's the OCIA, Order of Christian Initiation of Adults. We have a group of 10, and with them are their sponsors. And that evening we spoke about sacraments. And for us who have grown up Catholic, we sometimes take those things for granted, right? I mean, we just go through it and we sometimes just do it. But to be in a room of those who have an appreciation and they're so eager to understand what this means. And so what I told them about the sacraments was two things, that they're relational and they're restorative. They're relational in that God invites us to this wonderful community. God invites us into this relationship with Him. And so the question that I posed to them, maybe the question that we can reflect on this week was, when was the first time that I recognized the presence of God in my life? When was the first time that I recognized the presence of God in my life? So that was a question that was posed to them, gave them some time to think about it, and then you should have seen the incredible discussion that happened. It was fascinating to listen to their stories of faith and how they responded. Whether it was like Jonah with a little bit of hesitation, or whether it was like the disciples who were open and willing to discover this new adventure. One of the things that I've been promoting and encouraging us to do is to watch The Chosen. I know Deacon Bill has a group of men on Saturdays who are now watching The Chosen for the third time. And it's just this wonderful opportunity to think about what Jesus and the disciples might have looked like. We have this scene where Jesus calls the brothers and you see the Father, And you think Zebedee is encouraging of his sons. Now in season 3, when Jesus says they're going to go out and do all these things in his name, you should see their facial expressions. It's like, what? You're going to ask me to do what? And it's not them, but it is God through them. And really that's us too. By virtue of our baptism, by virtue of our confirmation, we too have been called and chosen to share the good news. And so, dear friends, as we celebrate the prayer of this Mass, whether we're like Jonah, a little bit hesitant, or whether like the disciples, we're all in. We are grateful for the gift of faith.